Hello class, today we are on our day 4 of our book Plant Cells and Life Processes. So we are going to be reading pages 22 to 29 in our book. You will find the book on the bottom shelf in our classroom, listed under Classroom Resources in our Google Classroom. It does say Plant Cells on the front of the book. When you click on that, you'll just want to click on the link that says day 4 and it will open right up for you. So today we're going to be seeing a listing of the types of products that plant cells make. And then we'll see two sequences of events. One is for mitosis and one is for meiosis. We've heard those words before, but we're going to dig into them a little bit more today. So plants need to reproduce. The prefix re means again, produce means to make. When plants reproduce, they're making themselves again. So we're going to be focusing on why plants need to make things in their cells and why they need to reproduce through cell division. And then as we go as well, I'm going to have some questions for you just to try to recap a couple of things that we're reading about. So let's go ahead and get started. Read with me as I read through this, just like you would if you were sitting here in class. It just helps us to become better readers when we can say the words aloud. So what do plant cells do with the food they make? Plant cells are always at work. They have one goal. The plant must survive long enough to reproduce. For some plants, such as an apple tree, it may take several years before the tree bears fruits and seeds. For others, like plants on the tundra, where the growing season is short, seed production must be quick. So here in the caption, it reminds us that it takes 4 to 5 years before an apple tree can produce fruit. So if you're buying an apple tree, don't expect to get fruit the first year. In the meantime, plant cells take in water and nutrients and make their own food. The healthier a plant is, the greater chance it has of producing seeds. Although the amount of each element, or most basic substance, needed for good health change comes from changes from plant to plant, all plants need 9 main elements. They are calcium, carbon, hydrogen, magnesium, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur. These elements are found in grains, fruit, and vegetables. What products do plant cells make? Plant cells use elements to make products they need to support their life processes. The products plant cells make are carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and nucleic acids. These are the same products produced in animal cells. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are sugars and starches that are the products of photosynthesis. They are molecules of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that provide plants with energy. Sugars and starches are stored in the central vacuole. When they are needed, mitochondria take the carbohydrates and convert them into energy. Cellulose, another carbohydrate, forms wood-like cell walls that give plants strength. About 1/3 of all plant matter is cellulose. So give me a quick recap here. Why do plants need to make carbohydrates? In this picture, you can see wheat that we grind into flour is rich in carbohydrates and proteins. Fats. Plant cells produce fats and waxes from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Fats have more hydrogen and less oxygen than carbohydrates. Many of the oils that humans use in cooking, such as canola oil and olive oil, are plant fats. Plants produce fats because they are excellent energy storage units. When a plant needs to pack a high amount of energy into a small space, such as the seed, it stores the energy in fats. Nuts, such as walnuts and pecans, are seeds with high oil content. Fats also play a role in protecting a plant's surface from losing too much water. Most cacti and other desert plants have waxy skins. The wax keeps water in and protects the plant from drying out. And over here in the picture it says waxes protect aloe vera leaves from losing needed water. So again, a quick recap. Why do plants need to make fats? Proteins. Proteins are made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. Proteins help make up cell membranes, which are an essential part of a cell. Nutrients and water molecules move into the cell through the membrane. The membrane blocks unwanted materials from moving into cells and lets waste material out of cells. Proteins also control how fast a plant grows and whether it will produce seeds. So again, give me another recap here. Why do plants need to make proteins? Nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are made of, let's say this one slowly, deoxyribonucleic acid, also known as DNA, and ribonucleic acid, which is also known as RNA. DNA tells the plant how tall it will be, the shape and color of its leaves, and the type of fruit it will produce. DNA contains thousands of bits of information about the plant. RNA looks for the exact information the cell needs to do its work. RNA copies the needed information and delivers it to the organelles that will do the cell's work. So what is in a seed? So seeds contain hundreds of cells. They have carbohydrates to feed the seeds, fats to store energy, protein for growth, and DNA for characteristics. So I can synthesize here. Seeds for plants contain cells that feed a growing plant and DNA so that it has a plan for developing. Eggs do the same thing for animals. In our last book, we saw that an ostrich egg has all of the nutrients that a developing ostrich needs, plus the DNA that directs it to grow into a chick. So seeds are for plants like eggs are for animals. So it's kind of a similar thing there. So let's find out, if cells do not grow, then how do plants get bigger? Cells divide and form more cells. This process is called mitosis. In many places, mitosis is most active in spring and summer when plants grow and produce seeds. In autumn, cell activity slows down. During winter months, many plants lie dormant or inactive. In tropical and subtropical areas, plants grow throughout the year. Cells reproduce at an impressive rate. So these are the steps of cell reproduction, or mitosis, and you're going to need this diagram here for when you do your bookworms today. So we start out with a single cell, then the DNA makes a perfect copy of itself. From there, the organelles copy themselves, and the copies move to opposite ends of the cell, and then finally the cell divides to form two identical copies. So cell reproduction uses a lot of energy. Plants need plenty of food to support the growth of new cells. For this reason, young plants put most of their energy into producing leaves. Flowers, fruit, and seeds only appear when a plant is big enough to produce the food and energy needed to reproduce. When DNA is replicated, it makes an exact copy of itself, and I think we've seen a picture similar to this in our other book. So when do cells divide? When conditions are right, cells begin to divide. The first step is for DNA to replicate or produce an exact copy of itself. Each organelle within the cell must also divide and reproduce an exact copy of itself. Once there are copies of every organelle, they move to opposite ends of the cell. Then the cell itself breaks in two. Two identical cells have been formed. From seed to plant death, this process is repeated millions of times. If you plant a seed and provide the right conditions for growth, mitosis takes over immediately and continues throughout the plant's life. Mitosis provides for growth. It works to replace older, worn-out cells. So this process up here that was being described is what they're talking about, so mitosis. And so this is how plants grow. So we start here. We end up getting a perfect copy, and you can see it kind of goes to either end. The organelles within there make a copy of themselves. Once they've done that, then they move to opposite ends of the cell, and then it ends up dividing in two. So now you've got a copy of each on either side. So each of these looks like that first one up there. You'll learn more about that as you get into high school. So how do plants produce seeds then? Because this is how they grow. How do they get their seeds? So meiosis is a special kind of cell division that only occurs in male and female reproductive organs. In meiosis, cells containing half of the organism's usual amount of DNA are formed. We call these cells eggs in female systems and sperm in male systems. Each cell has only half the number of needed chromosomes. Chromosomes are thread-like structures that carry genes, which are the basic unit that carries the characteristics of plants and animals. This is how meiosis takes place in plants with flowers. The eggs are found inside ovules, which are located in the base of the flower called the ovary. The pollen, or male reproductive cells, are in the anthers at the end of the stamen. Bees, bugs, and bats visit flowers looking for nectar. They collect pollen and deliver it to other flowers of the same species. Pollen may also move from flower to flower with the help of the wind. The pollen moves down a tube into the ovary. The sperm from the pollen fertilizes the egg. The pollen and egg form an embryo, so unborn or unhatched offspring. The two halves provide the combined DNA needed to produce seeds. So meiosis requires genes from both the sperm and the egg to create the offspring. So question for you on this, why are animals needed to help plants in meiosis? So what role do animals play in this process for plants? There's a little picture here. It says these tiny dandelion seeds contain all the DNA in their cells needed to produce new dandelions. So are all seeds the same? Seeds consist of many cells. Each cell contains the makeup to create a new plant. It has the products within each cell to support new life. Some seeds have coatings that are hard, like the shell of a coconut, or thin, like the skin of an apple. Some seeds develop inside cones. Other seeds, like those of a dandelion, are tiny, light, and travel on the wind. All seeds, regardless of size or shape, carry the basic DNA within their cells to form a new plant. Okay, so that's all for our reading today. Let's go ahead and check out the work. Remember I told you we're going to be using this diagram, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to it now. We only have one page in our bookworms, and actually you're going to notice on here that I have crossed off the second part of that and asked you to skip it. I just feel like they've already kind of described it, and I don't want you rewriting the paragraph. So let's take a look at this one. It says turn to the diagram on page 26, so that's this diagram right here. And they want us to use signal words. So what that means is to use words like first, starts with, then, next, finally, all of those sequencing words for a sequence of events. So start this way. And since it says start this way, I'm actually going to type those words in there. So on yours, you're going to want to write plants grow through mitosis. I'm just copying those words that are up there in the directions with their cells reproducing. So that's kind of a freebie. They've already told you that's going to be your very first sentence. Now I'm going to go ahead and use those signal words. So let me give you an example, and then you'll get to finish it for yourself. So I would probably use as a signal word maybe that it starts with, or to begin, or something like that. So I'm thinking I'm going to do it this way. This is called mitosis, and I'm going to put that it starts with a single cell. So mitosis starts with a single cell. So my goal is I should have one sentence basically for each of these. So if I'm going to use a signal word again, I can say, then the DNA makes a perfect copy of itself. So then, comma, the DNA, all uppercase, makes a perfect copy of itself. Makes a perfect copy of itself. And then I'm sure from there you'll probably use the word next, or you might say then again. I probably use next here. But I want you to go through the rest of these steps, and you're going to continue putting this in paragraph form using signal words. So we already have plants grow through mitosis with their cells reproducing. So that was that first part they told us. Mitosis starts with a single cell. Here's my signal word. Then the DNA makes a perfect copy of itself. You might put next, the organelles copy themselves. You might say then, right? And then you'll probably say something like finally. So I'm going to leave it to you to finish up this part here. And again, this is your only page today, and you don't have to do the bottom. So it should be pretty simple to get through. When you're finished with this, make sure you turn it in. Thanks.